Reg followed Davin into the house and glanced around, again looking and listening for anyone else. Julian Sabat lived with Davin at least part of the time, and Reg did not want to have any sensitive discussions around him. She didn't understand what Davin saw in Julian. He knew that Julian could be a bully and was not stable, but that didn't seem to matter to him. Reg supposed Davin was attracted to who he was attracted to. She couldn't deny that she had felt a pull from Corvin, Jake, and others who were not nice, kind people. One could argue that they'd been worse than Julian. So who was she to criticize Davin's romantic choices? They sat down in the airy living room. It was bright with all the big windows and was dominated by a huge fireplace that was currently empty. So, what's up? Reg asked. Your note was a little cryptic. Sorry to be so mysterious. I just didn't want there to be any chance that himself would find out about it. Reg wasn't sure of the oblique reference. Julian? Yeah. Devin's eyes darted around again, as if Julian might pop up at the mention of his name. Were they not allowed to say his name anymore, in case it might conjure him up? Reg knew that names had power. She couldn't discount the possibility without knowing the details of what was going on. He's not home, Devin assured Reg. He's off on business. Business might take him anywhere in the country, maybe even in the world. Reg didn't know how far his jurisdiction extended as a magical investigator for the Endangered Species Division. So why was Devin acting so nervous about being overheard? It's nothing, he told her, shaking his head. No reason for me to be so cloak and dagger about this whole thing. He gave a little chuckle. Just being paranoid. I don't want him to think that I don't trust him, but he trailed off. But he didn't trust Julian, and he shouldn't. Reg fully approved of his caution. So what's going on with Julian? She asked, hoping to move things along. Well, Devon pursed his lips, considering where to begin. You wouldn't know it, but he's a bit of a pack rat. Not a full-on hoarder, but he collects things. A lot of things. More than I can let him keep around the house. Davin's cheeks flushed a little at this revelation. He has his house in Salem and a storage unit, and the barn that was built on his property before I bought it. I don't know, he might have extra storage in Salem, too. Reg was not sure that she would agree with the statement that Julian was not a hoarder. That much stuff to be stored seemed to extend far beyond a pack rat who kept bits of string in case they might someday be needed. Kids who had grown up in foster care like Reg and Julian often had trouble parting with physical possessions. Reg had a spare room, which was supposed to be her home office, that was full of junk she didn't need. And she often felt the need to put away extra food for herself, protection against the lean times that were bound to come. What does Julian collect? She asked Devon. A lot of different things. Devon seemed relieved to have a specific question to answer. Furniture, canned goods, things that are old, even if there's no real market for them. But mostly, at least lately, objects of power. Reg's muscles tightened, and she felt dread deep in the pit of her stomach. Hadn't she dealt with enough objects of power lately? Who knew what Julian might have uncovered in the course of his work? Of course he wanted objects of power. Julian might not be able to consume their power directly like Corvin, but he could still use them to his advantage in other ways, or sell them to other collectors or power eaters who could put them to use. And he stores them here? Rich looked around, glancing first over the objets d'art in the living room, examining each for a dark aura. But everything seemed to be Davin's rather than Julian's, and reflected his energy. He only has a few set relics here, Davin said in an effort to reassure Reg, but his voice sounded a little strained as he said it, as though it might be a lie. Or maybe it didn't matter how many there were, only how powerful they were, or what kind of power they held. Davin rubbed his chin, finger and thumb scraping against the short whiskers of his goatee. The one that I'm really concerned about is a mirror. It seems like things have changed since he brought it here. I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing things and it's just a coincidence, but, well, I do have concerns. What kind of power does it have? And why was Davin consulting with Reg about it? He was more well versed in magic in general than Reg. She'd only discovered her heritage in the past few years. Davin had been the leader of his coven for some time and had many more years of experience than Reg, decades or possibly even centuries. He would understand more about the mirror and its powers than Reg. I have not examined it closely. I didn't want to raise Julian's suspicions or to make him think that I might want it for myself. And to be honest, if it is affecting his behavior, I don't want to take the chance. It will affect me as well. So you thought you would get me to look at it instead? Davin looked embarrassed. Sounds a little selfish when you put it that way, but I'm very close to him, and that could make me more susceptible. You are also very good at maintaining a psychic shield, so I think its influence on you can be mitigated. With me being in the same house, I can't shield myself against it all the time. Why don't you tell him he can't have it here then? Davin raised his brows and gave a shrug with one shoulder, a gesture that suggested he didn't want to start a fight with his partner over it. Reg would have told him to grow up and stand up for himself, especially when personal safety might be in question. But remembering how he'd acted with Jake and how she'd twisted herself Remembering how she had acted with Jake and how she had twisted herself around to do whatever he wanted, she knew it would be hypocritical. Yes, she had the defense that Jake had bound her, but who was to say that Julian hadn't done the same to Davin? If Julian was a collector of powerful objects, he might have given a gift to Davin that had him under its thrall, and Davin was powerless to break away on his own. What do you think it's doing to him? She asked. Davin took a deep breath, releasing it. He's been more driven, moody, quick to anger. It could just be work stress or something. I don't have any way to be sure that it's the mirror at this point. That's why I'm hoping you could take a look at it and give me your read. Reg's heart pounded hard with anxiety, although she tried not to let Davin see it. Acid burned in her chest, and that deep feeling of dread had settled into her stomach and wasn't going anywhere. It was time to decide. Help her mentor figure out whether the object Julian had brought home with him was dangerous, or get out while she could, before having any contact with a potentially perilous relic. How many times had Davin helped Reg out when she was in a pinch? Even before he'd known her personally, he'd tried to protect her from Gorvin, and he'd always been there for her when she had called on him. Did he hurt you? She asked Davin worriedly. He looked surprised. Hurt me? No. No, this is just, I'm concerned about him, not my own safety. You said he got angry more easily. A powerful object could influence him, making him lash out at the people he loves. You know he can be violent. I know he can be violent. I've seen it. In fact, Julian had nearly killed her when they were both children in the same foster home. Davin might say that Julian had been too young to know what he was doing, and had since learned to control himself and color within the lines, but Reg knew it wasn't true. He'd pulled his wand and tried to attack Reg at the grocery store, right out in public where people could see him. And Reg had been inside his mind. What she had seen there had frightened her. He might be able to protect him. He might be able to present himself as sane and professional to Davin and his superiors, but Reg knew otherwise. He was fractured, broken. His childhood experiences had destroyed the whole and healthy mind that Julian might once have possessed. And what existed there now and was both frightened and malevolent. Julian was in no way a safe person, ready for a loving, intimate relationship. He hasn't hurt me, Devon declared, sweeping this line of inquiry away with a gesture and not meeting her eyes. That's not what this is about. So, can you help me with this? Or she didn't know where that or might lead. Who would he go to if Reg said no? Where would he go for help? What would he do next? She had no idea what his plan of action was if she failed. I'll take a look at it, Reg agreed with a sigh. I don't know if I'll be able to tell you anything, but I'll try. Davin breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. Reg nodded. She stood up from the couch. Point me at it.